Hello, traders. Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com. Sunday, the 19th of May, 2024. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the strong pinning action at 5,300 on the S&P 500. We also have earnings from NVIDIA and Target this week, along with TJ Maxx. We're starting off the week with very strong positive gamma. So we'll be looking at Sunday's opening price action to give us an idea of what we might expect this week as we look for options to fill in now that OPEX is behind us. We have 15 bullish indicators coming into this week with 3 neutral and 2 bearish. So with that in mind, let's get started. With those bullish indicators, we have the New York FANG Index, 10 stocks closing higher. 8 of 10 were green on the week with a fade in Amazon and Meta. With the index breaking out on Tuesday, following through on Wednesday, and then flagging for the rest of the week. RSI is above 50 and rising. It is not diverging, so price action could lift higher this week with MACD showing bullish momentum and stochastics embedded. Additionally, we'll be starting the week with strong positive gamma, price action at a new all-time high pinned at 5,300 on Friday. RSI is above 50. This is not diverging as well. So that's telling us that we could see more upside with RSI at 67. MACD is still full on bullish. Volume looks good and stochastics embedded here as well. Do note that the average true range has been dropping, so that's telling us that price action is getting tighter and tighter as we push up to new all-time highs. While the S&P equal weight index remains strong, we have yet to make a new all-time high here, matching the S&P 500 and the Qs. Number of stocks above their 20-day in the upper panel and the 50-day in the lower panel are still very strong. They're near this subjective red zone that I put on the chart just so you can get an idea when things are overbought or extremely oversold. At present, we're closer to overbought, but there's still lots of energy in the market with the NASDAQ McClellan oscillator full on bullish. Price action at highs. We got a blue elder stick on Friday. But NASI, the summation index, is still very bullish. It only crossed over 2 weeks ago on Monday. So we could see another continuation here. You can see what happened back in November and December. We rocked higher, trapping the bears along the way. With the New York Stock Exchange, a broad measure of market participation also showing its McClellan oscillator full on bullish, with NYSE, the summation index, bullish for 2 weeks as well. On Monday, giving us a crossover 2 weeks ago. This is telling us that we could see more upside. Maybe we see a little consolidation, I would think. As blue elder sticks show up, maybe we consolidate the recent gains. Especially with volatility at extreme lows, we still have a green signal on the VIX indicator, which is telling us to look for continuation, higher highs and higher lows. You see what happened last week as we stumbled midweek, but regained our strength on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. With realized volatility and implied volatility, aka VIX, at the lows with a close at 12.99 on the VIX, telling us there's complacency coming back into the market as no one seems to be buying the volatility, with some institutions apparently starting to hedge as the indices make all-time highs. New York Stock Exchange McClellan volume oscillator is near extremes, so we are going to start being a little bit more cautious depending on how we open on Sunday night into Monday morning. Closing the week with a strong note still above the zero line. New York Stock Exchange making more new highs than new lows. Advanced decline in the middle panel is also at highs along with the index. continuing its bullish trend as volume comes into the markets, with MACD showing bulls are still in control, with no peak in the indicator at present, with RSI rising, showing strength of trend, 9/21 day crossing up through the 50-day. All four moving averages are bullish, moving up and to the right, with MACD showing bulls are in control, with no peak in sight at the present time. The 10-year did bounce at the 200-day on Thursday, hit the 50-day and paused. RSI is below 50. This is one indicator that we'll be paying attention to intently this week, with junk bonds also bullish above its 50-day, making higher highs and higher lows along a rising 9 EMA. 9/21 or above the 50 or above the 200-day, so this is a bullish trend. If you're concerned about the markets, always check junk bonds. I find that this tends to lead most of the time, with a most recent bearish signal back in the last week of March, early April, when it dropped below the 9/21 day and then followed through below the 50-day. Now we're above and looking for a tailwind to continue. Additionally, if the US dollar continues lower, drops below the 200-period moving average this week, that would be a bullish tailwind as well. One of our bullish indicators for the week as the dollar continues this fade. With that weak dollar, some commodities like natural gas found a bottom, has been turning for the last 2 weeks. Momentum shifting, rate of change increasing. So you could see a pretty quick move here over the next, I would say, 8 to 10 weeks if the bulls remain persistent, with gold romping higher on this monthly time frame. You can see we broke out above that 2100 level and are proceeding towards 2500 over the last 3 months, with that silver short squeeze that we've been looking for the past 3 months finally kicking in last week. Big move on silver. On the daily, you can see Bollinger Bands expanding rapidly. In addition to the gold miners like GDX running that upper Bollinger Band, whenever you see that lower band move away from the upper band, like we're seeing here, look for a fast move. RSI is still rising. No divergence here yet, with MACD and stochastics rising, volume increasing on Friday, while copper also made new all-time highs, volume increasing. This is a leading economic indicator that's telling you to look for strength in the economy to remain persistent. At the same time, we're watching crude oil. Had been making lower highs and lower lows. It looks like it's forming a base. Preferred if it moves lower. Obviously, that would be better for the consumer. While gasoline bounced at the 200-period moving average. We could be headed back to the 50-day. Hopefully this rolls over this week. Again, helping the consumer if it does. The sector heat map, as you can see, is improving. Reading from left to right each week. This is updated on Friday. We have some strength in consumer staples and the healthcare group, large and small cap biotechs, also pharmaceuticals seeing some strength, along with building and construction, real estate, technology, semiconductors, internet, telecom, and utilities. Also, we have international markets showing strength, improving from left to right from about 5 weeks ago when everything was starting to look more reddish. Now we're looking like yellow and lime greens. So we can see improvement in countries like Argentina, China, Turkey, and Greece, among the others. All of them improving somewhat over the last 4 weeks. The majority of these sectors are bullish above their 21-day and 50-day moving averages, the blue and red lines respectively, with the exception of transports, of course. Everything else looks pretty good. Consumer discretionary and retail did pull back a little bit despite the earnings we saw from Walmart last week. We have TJ Maxx and Target reporting this week. So we'll see if that trend that Walmart announced persists. Maybe we get a bounce this week. Everything else looks pretty good, with all eyes on semiconductors and NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday after the close. IBD 50 stock, American Express, trending 921 50-day and 200-day are all moving up and to the right. Bollinger Bands are contracting a bit, so we're looking for slow price action. While RSI does show strength of trend and volume increasing, showing institutions have been nibbling away, while MACD and stochastics remain pretty strong. Google also breaking out to new highs. After a 4-week vacation, it's finally back above its earnings gap at 174.71. Closing the week up 1% on Friday at 176.06. Google looks like it could continue, as institutions apparently have been buying over the last 4-week respite. Arista Networks, big move over the last several weeks, consolidating at all-time highs. Note the Bollinger Bands are coming together, which is telling you look for more consolidation. I'd like to take a position in this one. If we can get a base to form here above 308, and we can see some bullish action come in. The volume was really nice into the second week of May, so we'll look for that return and for indicators to recycle again for a setup on Arista Networks. Axos Financials, keeping an eye on this one. It's above the 90 MA. RSI is showing muscle, looks like a bicep and profile, like it did over here in December, where we continue to move higher. Looking for institutions to continue buying. In the short term, we're watching this consolidation at recent highs. Blue Owl Capital, also trending back to the top of its range, looking for a breakout eventually. Fairly inexpensive stock. You can see volume here indicating institutions have been accumulating shares. MACD and stochastics, more importantly, have turned up, so the momentum might continue this week. RSI is rising. Insurance companies have been rising, so it's no surprise to see BRP Group with Bollinger Bands expanding top and bottom is telling you to look for that fast move. RSI is rising, volume increasing. MACD and stochastics pointing higher. This company reported on May the 7th. It's an independent insurance distribution firm tailored to insurance and risk management. You can see the revenue growth and earnings growth improving with a big beat at 28.9%. So watch for those insurance names. Travelers Insurance, looking for a push above the 50-day. RSI is rising. And Cincinnati Financial, two favorites. Cincinnati already above its 50-day moving average, watching volume, stochastics, and MACD. It's not a sexy stock, but we can see the bullish action as institutions pick up shares in those insurance names. Here we have Celsius forming a cup, looking for a handle to complete over the next week or two, and then a breakout above 100. RSI, MACD, stochastics all showing bullish action, accumulation of shares over the last few weeks as well. Celsius actively gaining market share in the sports energy drink sector. At the same time, we've been seeing strength in the security group, in the internet software and security groups. CrowdStrike breaking higher. Notice that lower band's turning up, so it's telling you to look for a grind to the upside. Also watch Zscaler and Palo Alto Networks, CyberArk. You could also trade the Cyber ETF if you don't want to pick individual stocks. Just pick up some shares in this ETF, which is looking bullish. 921 will cross up through the 50-day. Higher highs and higher lows, with momentum clearly more bullish. And if we move it above these volume by price bands over here, look for prices to break out to new all-time highs over the next several weeks. Interactive Brokers on the watch list for the last couple of weeks, looking for a follow-through This just continues along its 9, 21, 50-day moving averages. Bollinger Bands are tightening up a little bit, so look for price action to either break out or consolidate a little bit more. MACD and stochastics along with RSI show strength of trend, and volume over the last 4 or 5 weeks has been pretty decent. So looking for interactive brokers to continue in the short term. Make My Trip and other travel and leisure stocks managing to grind higher. Watching this whole group, the hotels, cruise lines, airlines, and car rentals like Avis Budget, looking for this to continue out of this base. If it gets above these volume by price bands over here, we have a Kirby overhead that could see price accelerate towards the 200-day moving average in the short term. RSI is descending a little bit, so maybe it bases a little bit more. Just very curious to see how some of these other travel and leisure related names work out this week. Delta and United, cruise lines, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Lines at the lows that had a short squeeze potential with calls building. NVIDIA, of course, is the big one this week, looking for price action to break out of this base. It consolidated after the gains from January into March. For the past 3 months, we've been moving sideways, so I wouldn't be surprised to see NVIDIA continue higher. I don't think they're going to lose the top spot in the semiconductor and AI-related technology industries at this point. They look very strong, but yet have consolidated for a reasonable amount of time going into earnings on Wednesday after the close. Novo Nordisk continues with base building, looking for a handle and a breakout in the short term. Oscar Health in the industry groups that were strong last week, looking for a continuation, this little cup and brief handle. We're looking at persistent bullish price action, RSI showing strength of trend. 9, 21, 50, and 200-day are all pointing up and to the right. We had a recent pullback to the 90 MA. Perhaps a bullish trade on Monday would give us conviction for a follow-through. Pan American Silver, bullish Bollinger Bands expanding over the last 8 trading days, making new highs with the breakout in silver and gold last week. All of these miners remain bullish. Pinduoduo, bullish action in China over the last few weeks. I don't have a position, but there is a possibility this does break out if you like trading this one. RSI, MACD, and stochastics are all bullish and pointing to a continuation in the short term. Resistance more than likely right overhead at 152, 153. Texas Roadhouse and some of the restaurants and bars along with travel and leisure stocks. Nice trend, looking for a follow-through this week. With its recent report on May the 2nd, the company beat. Next time around, it reports on August 1st. So this could be a candidate for maybe selling some premium or some other option strategy, or just buy shares and sell covered calls. 12.5% revenue growth, earnings growth 32%. Not bad for a restaurant, which tend to have pretty tight margins. Yet the stock continues to trend. We see that also in Wingstop, nice bullish trend. Cheesecake Factory and Darden Restaurants, I believe they're home to Olive Garden. Looking for this to turn back up through the 200-day. MACD and stochastics more bullish, turning higher. RSI rising, showing the strength of the trend is improving. Maybe this hits the 50-day this week. Could be a nice swing trade on Darden Restaurants as travel and leisure stocks show accumulation by institutions. TradeWeb advertising looking very strong, looking for a follow-through this week. Transmedics in the healthcare group, this one's trending. RSI showing strength of trend with muscle. Bollinger Bands are turning in, so this could just grind higher or consolidate in the short term. Either way, it looks pretty strong in a group that was showing strength over the last 3 to 4 weeks. Trip.com with the travel and leisure stocks, looking for this one to continue with Make My Trip as well, showing a bullish tailwind over the last several months. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com on May the 19th, 2024. Make sure you check out the stocks down below under the scans. I ran some of these through their paces. Many of them look like they could follow through this week. I'll send out a watch list later tonight around 12 midnight on the East Coast, around 9 o'clock on the West Coast, so be sure to check your inbox for that later tonight. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care, and we'll see you in the morning. Ciao.